Okay, hello everyone. The second day of my Facebook live chats. I hope I learned something from yesterday. I think I did. What I did learn is that this microphone is better than the other one, so I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Secondly, if you wish to interact, please write in the chat box on Animal Health and Hydro page, and I will answer your questions as best as I can. Thirdly, just a little bit about, Animal Health and Hydro believes in connecting companions, and we believe in connecting companions through empowered decisions. And that sounds like a mouthful, but really and truly what we want to do is we want to be able to give you information and bring you up to date with whatever it is that we know and what it is that we think will work for your dogs and cats, but the focus seems to be more on dogs. And in that way, we hope to empower you and allow you to make the decisions for your dogs and for your pets that are in their best interests. And remember that as much as they are our companions, we are their companions. And so let's kick today off with what is walking and why is it important, and how many frustrated dogs and frustrated people do we have on day 5 of lockdown? And it was emphatic, you may not walk your dogs. So walking in the sense of taking your dogs out is a huge stimulus for them. Their most powerful sense is the sense of smell. And so when we take them out, we don't have any idea, we can't comprehend the level of information that they are gathering by walking wherever it is that we take them. So just to give you an idea of their sense of smell, so we have a center in our brain called the olfactory center, and that is the center to which all of our nose or sense of smell receptors attach. Dogs also have, all mammals have an olfactory center. The olfactory center in our brain is tiny. It takes up a really, really small percentage of our brain in comparison to dogs. If I can put it in a nutshell, I once read a book that said humans require 100,000 parts per million to recognize a smell. Dogs require 3 parts per million to recognize a smell. And when you start to think about that comparison, you realize why it is that we have such fabulous dogs that work in our detection services, and also the dogs that are able to sense if we're about to go into a diabetic low, if we're about to have a seizure. I think there are other things as well that play a role, but there are dogs now that are smelling out malignant tumors. And so with regards to the walking, our sense of smell, their sense of smell is hugely important. And now we're sitting in a garden, and pretty much they know what's been going on. But I was watching little Dylan this morning, and being a boy dog, I think his sense of proprietary is way more than chamois. And he's been wandering around investigating all the new places. And it dawned on me that he was picking up all the messages from the night before. Just because we're inside and we're sleeping doesn't mean that everything else is. And so I think he's picked up, who knows? I've probably got cats that have walked through here. I've certainly got birds. I've got night birds, dickops. And maybe there's the odd person that walked through here. I don't know. But make no mistake, he was checking out exactly what had gone on in the few hours that he was indoors. And so what can we do now that will enhance their walking experience in a garden? So I'm very fortunate. I live on a small holding, and so the walks are forever interesting. And there's many, many, many things that I'm able to do that many other people are not. So let's talk about stimulating dogs, normal dogs. And I also want to say a word or two a little later about dogs that are compromised, because Animal Health and Hydro is in the business of looking after dogs that have injuries and dogs which are not able to walk so well. And so I don't want to forget about them today. And hopefully I'll make a full 20 minutes, maybe even 30. So let's see how today goes without losing connection. So walking is, let's talk about the normal dogs. It's stimulatory. What are we going to do with them now that they are confined? So there were some really good comments already when I posted the topic for today. There were already some good comments about what other people are doing. So the one is to lay a scent trail. Having just spoken about dogs' sensory awareness and their capacity to smell and sniff things out, before you take them for a walk, you could do, I mean, our equivalent would be an Easter egg hunt, which is appropriate seeing as Easter is coming up. But ours is more visual. We hide the eggs and now we want to go and look for them. So what can we hide for our dogs that they can go and find? You can hide them. You don't actually have to just hide them. You can put them in a trail for your dog to actually walk a trail and to sniff it out. That's one way. The other way of doing it is to hide them underneath things. So you can play a little bit of a mind game. If you've got a number of old pots for plants, plant pots, and you turn them upside down on your lawn, you could put it doesn't even have to be a snack. It could be a toy. So you could put a number of items underneath those pots. And when your dog sniffs them out, so the game is for him to find them, turn over the pot and get the reward. So if it's food, the food itself is a reward. If your dog has a high toy drive and he gets the toy, well, the moment he gets the toy, then there's a reward and a little bit of a game before you revise it or before you do something else. So setting up trails and playing games with your dogs is another entire topic, but certainly it is a way of letting them get the exercise, but also stimulating their senses and their brains. So a dog is more likely to tire from brain exercises than he is to tire from simple running, because the running is something they were designed to do. Okay, so that was number one. Number two, what else can you do? So set up a trail. The other thing that I really like is to set up an obstacle course. So how many items have you got at home that you could use that would challenge your dog to think about where he's walking and what he's doing? And this ties in with yesterday's chat on a dog's body awareness, is that if you challenge him and you teach him to manage the obstacles, then he is automatically starting to figure out how to use his legs and what to do with his feet. So what are items may you have at home that you could do to set up an obstacle course? And this you could set up in a room, but that space would be restricted. And remember, slippery floors are not so good. You could set it up on your lawn if you are fortunate enough to have one and a bit of a garden. So what would I use? So behind me, to the left of me, I don't know what you're seeing, I think this is a mirror image, is an item that is leant against the wall, and that is what Animal Health and Hydro use when we want to do ladder exercises. But if we are to think of a ladder, so most of you will have a ladder at home, and you lay the ladder down flat, have a look at what it creates when you lay it down. Okay, so, come on, Dylan, move my lad, thank you. Now we have a number of squares into which the dog can walk. So now at dog training schools, you'll see that a lot of the training schools will use tires for the dog to step into. It's a similar idea. So if you've got spare tires and you want to put them out there, to encourage the dog to actually walk in the tires is a good idea. But in the ladder, you want the dog to place his paws into each square that is created by the ladder. So one there, one there, one there, and so on. The smaller the ladder, the more difficult. Okay. So start with the dog going forward, and if you're brave, later on in the course of the lockdown, try to see if you can get your dog to walk backwards. So backward walking is a very, very good body awareness exercise. The dog has to think about where he's placing his paws. Okay, so we have a ladder that we could place as one item of the obstacle course. The other item of the obstacle course was something with which we familiarized ourselves yesterday, which is the platform. So here's the platform. Sorry, Dylan. And you place this somewhere in the obstacle course, and you could ask him at the time that he's now on the platform to do sit to stand, down to stand, twists, whatever you decide. And in some instances, people could use tables. So similar to the, I want to say grooming tables, but that's not the right idea. But in fitness, you can get a platform that is about 30 to 40 centimeters off the ground. That's a square. It's usually 1 meter by meter. And in agility, dogs will sometimes jump onto those platforms. They'll have to wait first before they can come down or do something. So you can teach your dog to wait, or teach him a whole lot of other things to do on that platform. So now you've got 2 items that you can put into your obstacle course. If you have got paving, or you have got paving around your garden beds and the dog can walk a little bit into the bed, if you are zigzagging your dog up and down, now, ordinarily I would say when you're walking the dog outside and you're walking them along a pavement or along a curb, the dog is zigzagging on and off the pavement. He's having to think about stretching the outside leg down, and as he comes onto the pavement, he has to lift it up more. It's a pretty good, if you're doing it in both directions, so both sides of the legs get exercised, it's a really good awareness exercise, but there's a strength component to it too. Remember that the title of this was walking. So the purpose of this exercise, all of them, is to do it at a walking pace. And when we start talking about the compromised dogs, then you'll get a little bit more understanding why walking is such a wonderful gift and such a useful tool to teach our dogs body awareness. Okay, other items. So yoga mats change the surface and create a lot of sensation. Yesterday I said I put the yoga mat over a pumped up lilo. That will create a wobbliness, and your dog is going to have to balance. So we're making him activate his core at the same time. He's got to think. So instead of just a walk, now he's got to think about what is he doing and how's he going to keep his balance. For those of you that have some gym equipment at home, this is one of those little balance cushions. You could add any item that creates a wobble into the obstacle course and ask him to step on it, sit on it, and perform any sort of an exercise that you like on this cushion. So you could use outdoor cushions and things as well. I wouldn't say that today. I won't recommend that you use the couch cushion because that would create, I think, a little bit of uproar in the house. And then another thing. So we use cones a lot. They're very useful, and while it's probably not possible to go to Builder's Warehouse right now, basically we bought the cones and we drilled a hole in them, and the hole is exactly the right size for a piece of electrical conduit or plumbing pipe to fit in. Okay. And so these can, if you've got 2 of them, they create a really, really super pole for the dog to walk over. But you can use bricks and broomsticks. So the bricks will lift the pole off the ground, and then you place the broomsticks across the 2 bricks so that your dog has something to step over. So now he has to think about, oh, now there's an obstacle. Now I need to step over it. Okay, so anything that you have in your house that could balance a mop or a broom pole over which your dog can step, that's another item that you can add into your obstacle course. Okay, and you can understand you want them to step over, not hop over. So if they are walking, then they're going to be naturally stepping as opposed to hopping, except if the dog has got an injury. And then if we use these cones and we set them up 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can use any number of items. I like the cones because they have height, but you could use anything. You could use chairs, you can use rocks if, they might be a little bit difficult to move around, but anything that you've got at home. And really the idea is you want your dog to weave around these. So in one, out the other, in one, out the other. Shammy, come my darling. Okay, little Dylan. This is where you go and eat food, and Shammy comes to demonstrate. You go and eat. There. Shammy, come. Good girl. So if we take Shammy through, hold on, let me see if I can do this. Shammy. You bring her around the other one. There we go. And in and out and in and around the end. Yay! So clever. Okay. All right. You think I didn't feed Dylan? Okay. Okay, so Nadine says yogurt containers, brilliant, thank you. Anything that creates a marker that your dog can see. Okay, and so there's really no limits. You can go and have a look at what have you got in your cupboards that you aren't using anymore, and how can you create some sort of an obstacle course for your dog. So we want things for the dog to be able to step over. We want things for the dog to be able to move around so that he's got to think about where he's putting his legs. We want something that's a little unstable so that the dog can be a little unbalanced and engage the core muscles. Okay. So I think that's obstacle courses for me pretty much done. I just got to untangle Dylan out of my microphone cable. There we go. Okay, lad. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. So I see Wendy's got some signal issues. Wendy, the recording will come up on Facebook, so hopefully it's on your side and not on mine. I'm not certain. But in the last few minutes that are remaining, I just want to talk a little bit about dogs that are compromised and dogs where one leg has been injured or they've had surgery. Walking is a really, really important exercise for them. So if you're sitting at home and you're not able to bring your dogs into the hydro or to any other physical rehabilitation facility as normal, please walk them every day. But I really mean a walk. So you need to put them on a harness and you need to make sure that they are walking. A lot of the little dogs will want to run because it's easier and then they don't have to engage the leg which is injured. So it's really important that you slow them down and you make them walk. And the walking is important because walking is what we call a 4-beat gait. So they have to use, it's the only gait where dogs use each of their legs one at a time, individually. And they walk in a sequence of right hind, right front, left hind, left front. So go and have a look at when your dog is walking and see if you can pick that up. Right hind, right front, left hind, left front. And while they're doing that, all of the other 3 legs have to be engaged. So if they have an injured leg, then that leg has to stay engaged. Or they have to actually shift their weight onto that. Sorry, funny things happening on my screen. They have to actually shift their weight onto the injured leg. And so walking becomes vitally important for those dogs. Please, if they're not accustomed to walking, start them off with 3 or 4 minutes in your garden over different surfaces. The different surfaces, grass, gravel, paving, pebbles, will create a sensory feedback and create more sensory awareness and more body awareness so that your dog actually engages the leg more. So yeah, I think that's really what I wanted to wrap up with for the injured dogs. it is important to walk, and for them it may be better to actually walk them for short portions a number of times in the day. And that's because if they've got a cruciate injury or a hip injury and it's even elbows and the joint is affected, if you walk them for too long, the concussion actually creates inflammation. So if you slow them down and you walk them for 3 minutes 3 times a day, the mobility is very, very important for joint health, because it starts to move the joint fluid around, and the joint fluid lubricates the joint and brings nutrition into the cartilage surface. So please, if you've got old dogs and you've got injured dogs, frequent walks more often are more beneficial than one long walk. So you can take your dogs out 6 or 7 times a day and just, especially the oldies, and just let them meander around the garden. So I once saw a really old Jack Russell Terrier who was arthritic everywhere. I think he was 15 or 16. And I said to the client, is there somebody at home? So the dog got up in the morning, did his business, ate his food, went to bed. When everybody came home in the evening at around 6 o'clock, the dog got up again, did his business, ate his food, and went to bed. And he was really stiff. I said, is there anybody at home that is able to walk this dog 4 or 5 times a day? And the client said to me, well, Granny's home. I said, great. So can Granny get him up? Can Granny get up? Is Granny capable? Yes. So can Granny get up and walk the dog, 5 or 6 times a day? And when I saw the dog again a couple of weeks later, and I said to the client, well, the dog's looking great. She said, yeah, the dog's fantastic. You should see Granny. So the movement and the walking is vitally important for all of us. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it. There's quite a lot of information. Oh, one other thing. I will be posting an applicable video onto the Animal Health and Hydro page with regards to the topic that we spoke of in that day. So some of them are teaching videos, some of them are demonstration videos, and I hope you'll find that helpful. So I'm about ready to sign off. For those of you that are still here, any questions, anything else, any comments, anything I can add to this 20-minute chat? See, Lindy says, love the video. Thank you. We'll be definitely practicing at home. Perfect. Perfect. So that's the idea. We're stuck here. Let's put some ideas into practice. Great. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everyone. I hope you found it useful. Love the comments. This is Mr. Dylan saying goodbye. Bye-bye, boy. See you tomorrow at 12.